Welcome to episode 1 of STEM Power. Today on the show, we're interviewing Miss Laing, who will be sharing her experiences in the field of computer science.
What made you want to pursue engineering and computer science?
Well, it wasn't what I started out to do. My grandparents were engineers, my parents were engineers, and the last thing I wanted to do was be an engineer. So I studied business. Then I got out of school, and the economy was in such a way, and I didn't have any real skills, so I had trouble getting a job. And that's when I took a job with some what were then startups. This was the 1980s. They were startups. It was kind of a different time. And got a job in a startup as a marketing person, which I also didn't like very much. But I loved what the developers were doing, and I wanted to do it. So I started doing it, and eventually they moved me from the marketing position to a developing job, and that was the beginning.
So why did you then decide to become a teacher and mentor for computer science?
Oh, that was many years later. So I worked for 3 different startup companies in Cupertino. And then I wanted to live overseas, so I took a job with Chevron, and they loaned me to different companies all over the world. So I lived in Saudi, I lived in Indonesia, I lived in England, I lived in Malaysia, and I lived in Singapore. And but I got to the point where I was able to retire from Chevron because you got extra time for doing hazardous duty. And so I thought, what would I like to do? I think I'd like to teach, but I started in college. I was teaching part-time at a couple of universities. And obviously I taught engineering as well as computing courses, because that was sort of, I had gone back, I'm sorry, I messed up now. I did go back to college, and I had worked my way up into doing automated control systems. And I did my master's degree in that field during those 15 years that I was working for Chevron. So I had a good background to do this, and then my children were little, and I thought, I'm going to try to teach high school. So I got a teaching credential and started teaching high school. That was 2009.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a long time ago.
So what were your best memories teaching at high school students? What are some experiences that you would like to share?
The kidnapping would be probably an interesting story. The kidnapping. I worked in a school in Kuala Lumpur, an international school, and in front of the school one day, and my house, I lived across the street, a kid was kidnapped off the street, an international kid. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And here's the good part of the story. This is where my part comes in. There was a kid that was a hacker, and he'd been kicked out of Dubai and had to move to Kuala Lumpur to live with his uncle. And so he was living there, and he didn't know a lot of kids. He was a junior. And so he would hang out with me because he was a really gifted computer geek. Yeah. And so the kid was kidnapped, and this other kid, the junior, the hacker, we were always playing around with stuff. And one day he said to me, Ms. Laing, I wonder what would happen if I put a GPS tracker into a Facebook page. Do you think I could do it? And I said, I don't know, let's try, right? So I said, but wait a minute, are you hacking on a friend? Are you hacking a friend? And he said, oh no, you're gonna like this. Well, turns out he was working with the police department, the Kuala Lumpur Police Department, to find the kidnappers, because they were holding the kid, and he was communicating with the parents through his Facebook page. So they got the guy, they got the kid back, and everybody was happy. They arrested the kidnappers. There were a bunch of them. There were 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, it's a nice story, right?
Nice story, yeah.
And a very interesting one, actually.
Are there any other key moments you'd like to share? Just in general, your teaching or interesting projects or something that you've been able to mentor?
I think the best part of the teaching is the kids themselves. And I know that sounds cliche, but it is true when a kid comes back after they've graduated from high school and they say, wow, Miss Laing, all that stuff you taught me in computer science, I'm using it in college. And that just makes me really, really happy. So I would say that's a big plus, yeah, for me.
And then finally, what experiences or challenges have you faced being a woman in STEM?
Well, I worked for Chevron. I worked in various oil companies. Biggest challenge, working as a professional person for the Saudi oil company, ARAMCO. I loved living there, but women are not, there weren't any other professional women. Mm-hmm. They allowed me because I was American, I guess, and not a Muslim. But there was always that sort of tension. I was not allowed to have certain jobs officially. I could act as a manager, but I couldn't. So whenever I had a particular, like a project lead or something like that, I would have AA following it and those kinds of things. So it was challenging in a way. I understood the culture well enough to know that it's their culture, not mine. But you can imagine a young American woman, Northern California woman in Saudi Arabia, it felt quite repressive.
And do you think that like culture changed when you came here to the United States? Like Quarry Lane, do you think like it's a lot more receptive for people that are pursuing STEM? Or like how did your experiences or challenges change? Yeah, when I came here, I think this is a STEM-focused school. So I think everybody here, I am happy that there are a lot more women or young women going into the field out of this school, definitely. So that, yeah, I see it. But I see it also changing with the times, too. I lived in Saudi Arabia in the early 90s. It was just a different time altogether. Is there any message you would want to share with other young girls around the world that want to also pursue STEM?
Yeah, do it. Don't even look back. I have never had trouble finding a job. I mean, even now, teaching computer science, we're so rare that, again, I can have a job, right, anywhere I want. And a fun job and a respectable job and traveling and all of those things has been, my field of expertise has allowed me to do that, which is something I wanted to do. So yeah, do it. Just don't even look back.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of STEM Power. A huge thank you to Miss Laing for sharing her story. If you'd like to suggest an episode idea, please fill out the form in the podcast description below. See you next time.